Welcome to Reread. We're on book 3 of the Black Fleet Crisis. It is called Tyrant's Test. Chewbacca is hunting with Lumpy on the planet of Kashyyyk when he gets the call that Han's been captured, so he decides he has to leave. The Wookiees have kind of fixed up some blind spots within the Falcon 2, and they've assembled a Wookiee team with his son going with him. At first, Mala's fine with the Wookiee team going with him, but when she finds out Lumpy wants to go, she's upset, just like a mother would be. But Chewbacca sees, yeah, well, my son, he's not a man yet until he finishes his hunt. So what does he do? He can't. He's too old to be in the nursery. He can't be a Wookiee male yet. He hadn't finished his rite of passage. So yeah, he can come with me, and Chewbacca's kind of proud of that he's coming along. Anyway, Luke thinks that Leia may be imagining memories of her mother just to comfort herself. I totally forgot about this. They answer another question that would later be asked in the prequels. How come Leia has thoughts of her mother always being sad? Well, before the episode 1 even came out, Michael P. Q. McDowell made a great attempt to answer this, even though he didn't even know. Episode 1 wasn't a thing back then. But he's wondering if Leia just made up those minds. Maybe it's Bail Organa's wife that was sad a lot before she died, and Leia got them mixed up. And Luke's thinking, man, maybe Leia didn't even know our mother. What? It's almost like he knew what episode 1 would be. That's impossible though, but this also has one of my absolute favorite Easter eggs in here. When Drayson leaks the Platt Millar tapes to the Life Monitor run by Sindel Tawani. You gotta love that, right? Sindel from the Ewok movies. It is probably the only reference with Sindel in it, but it's one of the few. I mean, they see a Gorax on the planet, so I guess that's, on Kevin J. Anderson's books. But it's a direct reference to the movies. I gotta love it. I gotta love it. Now, Chewie and his team of Wookiees do infiltrate the ship where Neil Spar has Han Solo captured. They break in. For some reason, no one can see them. And they're like, what? How are they not being able to see us? They surprise them and sneak all the prisoners out. That's because one of the prisoners being held is from the White Current, one of those Falacini. I can't remember their actual names there. And Han doesn't realize that, but you realize that later, that she's one of them. And Han's like, come on, you need to go too, but she wants to stay just in case Neil Spar brings more prisoners. She can kind of shield their movement as well and help them escape. So I thought that was really good. Now, of course, once this rescue is done, Lumpy is now a man. This was kind of his rite to passage, right? An impromptu rite of passage. He didn't do it on the planet, but he definitely did this on the mission. He proved his worth, so he picks his name, Waroo. W-A-R-O-O. Waroo. Instead of Lumparo, Waroo. Come on! Michael P. Q. McDowell knew what he was doing. I should name my son Waroo. Now, this kind of ends anticlimactically as the Empire. There is remnants of the Empire under Neil Spar's control, but after a while, the Empire breaks free. They capture Neil Spar, shoot him out in a escape pod while they're in hyperspace. So his escape pod will always be in hyperspace, they say, because they've run many tests in hyperspace, and they hope he dies a slow death. And so, obviously, Neil Spar is evil. He's just evil, so you want him to die. And maybe having the Empire kill him in a cruel way is the best way to do it, because if the Republic did that, they wouldn't be the New Republic. But that kind of happens earlier, and then it goes back to Lando's story, where this living ship, they find out it's trying to make it back to its home. But they've got to get off this ship. And there's, so as Lando, Lobot, 3PO, and R2 are hurtling toward this frozen planet that they find out, the Quella are their names. The Quella knew that their planet was about to lose, I guess, both of its moons and freeze over. So they created this ship, put their essence in there, and then we're going to wait eons later for the planet to melt, which I guess is what it's doing now. And then they're going to repopulate the planet. It's basically just to save their civilization. And that's what the big reveal is. Well, they don't know how to get out. So Luke Skywalker, who has totally missed the Black Fleet Crisis, kind of comes back. By the way, he finds out that Akana lied the whole time. Kind of a bummer. He's mad at her, but then forgives her, of course. And then the White Current makes some weird, because they don't even want Luke part of them. But when Leia's ready, they gladly have her. Is what I can't remember her name, the queen mother of the white current says, which that was kind of weird. I read that twice. I was like, wait, Leia? What? They don't even mention that. So, I don't know. Leia has a free pass, but Luke doesn't. Oh, bigots. But before I channel my inner Chuck Wendig, let me just say that Luke comes in, helps him out. Lando's kind of loopy by now because he hasn't had much sleep, and it's kind of funny too. But they rescue him. Luke kind of gives the whole story of the Quella, what their deal is, and they decide to hide the whole planet. You know, just kind of wipe it from any star charts to kind of give them their own privacy. And when the Quella's ready, they'll greet the rest of us in the universe, whether that's 100 years, 1,000 years from now, or whatnot. So kind of ties a nice little bow on that story. Overall, what do I think about this? I think it's an excellent series. There is not a boring moment. Yes, Lando's is the best only because it's Lando. No, it's got a lot of comedy in there, but everything else, all the storylines with Han, Leia, Neil Spar, that didn't bother me. I actually enjoyed that. Neil Spar is upset because he's trying to figure out the compassionate, how to control human emotions. He doesn't. And if you think about it, I mean, in the long run of things, Neil Spar doomed his race, the race he's so proud of, that should be conquerors of the galaxy. He doomed them the moment he came out of that cluster and approached the New Republic. Why? Because the Vong were waiting. And they remember the Vong in like, I don't know, 3-4 more years, or 5 years, I think, they're going to take over. You know, they're going to try to take over the galaxy. They can't have Neil Spar's people uprising again against them. So, and we kind of know what happens to them. But the whole time I was thinking about that, this is so cool because chronologically, we already know that Nominar's around. We don't know who he is. But if you're reading this, you've already read it before. That's why I don't think you should read chronologically the first time. But now, as you're seeing it, you're going, oh, Neil Spar. Because every time he's talking about his grand people, their vision, their should be conquerors. Dude, you doomed yourselves the moment you made the Vong aware of your presence, because you were marked you were thumbtacked as a future threat that we have to get rid of sooner rather than later. But Michael P. Q. McDowell is an excellent author. He's excellent. Most of these books I read within a day and a half. Easy, because it's fun. It flows very well, and it was awesome. I was turning chapter after chapter, not getting bored at any point, not even Luke's story. I wasn't bored because Luke kind of addresses the questions of the Force and questions that fans probably put forward in the forums. And I think that was Michael P. Q. McDowell's way of kind of answering the fans' questions about the Force, about Luke, about Leia, and all that kind of stuff. Really good, really good. All right, folks, that's it for now. See you next time.